Welcome to Professional Development for Write Ahead, a writing program for 9th and 10th graders. The program includes 3 components: a student handbook, leveled grammar skills books, and a free online teacher's guide. Let's take a look at the student handbook. This is Write Ahead. As you can see from the back cover, it has 5 sections: the process of writing, the forms of writing, the tools of learning, the proofreader's guide, and the student almanac. The process of writing section teaches students about the writing process and then gives them specific strategies for pre-writing, writing, revising, group advising, editing, and proofreading. It also focuses on basic skills with sentences, paragraphs, and essays. The forms of writing section leads students through creating the major modes: personal, narrative, explanatory, persuasive, writing about literature, research, creative, and writing across the curriculum. The Tools of Learning section focuses on the skills that will help students succeed in any class. Skills like research, thinking, reading, and working in a classroom. The Proofreader's Guide provides rules and examples for punctuation, mechanics, spelling, usage, sentences, and the parts of speech. And finally, the Student Almanac includes high-interest pages on language, science, mathematics, geography, government, and history. Let's take a look at the process section. Here is a chapter on pre-writing. Students learn selecting strategies like clustering, free writing, listing, using the basics of life checklist, and completing sentences. They build a file of writing ideas with many activities, including creating a life map. Next, the chapter gives some starting points for describing, narrating, explaining, and persuading, as well as writing prompts. Students learn all sorts of gathering strategies, as well as research strategies. They learn about different sorts of graphic organizers that they can use, including a gathering grid. This section focuses on planning your writing, creating a focus, organizing the details, and using a method of organization. The chapter ends with outlining, and the very next chapter dives into writing the first draft. In the forms section, students learn about the major forms, such as explanatory essays. There's a chapter on the main form, as well as a chapter on many other forms within that same mode. First, students learn about the form and see an example. Afterward, they follow writing guidelines to develop their own form. They learn how to create an effective thesis statement and to support it. They have help with drafting the beginning, the middle, and the ending. They also have support for revising, including a revising checklist. And there's support for editing, including an editing checklist. The chapter ends with an explanatory rubric, which you and your students can use for assessment. You see afterward other explanatory forms, including a process essay, definition essay, comparison-contrast essay, cause-effect essay, and even responding to an explanatory writing prompt. All the major forms help students prepare to write in high-stakes assessments. Here in the Tools section, we have a chapter on thinking critically. Students become better thinkers and learn the difference between facts and opinions. They learn how to persuade with logic and avoid logical fallacies. They also learn a process for solving problems. The chapter helps them make good decisions and ask thoughtful questions, and ends with a critical thinking checklist. Now let's take a look at the Proofreader's Guide. It includes sections on marking punctuation, editing for mechanics, improving your spelling, using commonly misused words, understanding idioms, understanding sentences, and the parts of speech. This first page provides rules and examples for using periods. The next 2 pages focus on question marks, exclamation points, and commas. Now let's look at the Student Almanac. It includes sections on language, science, mathematics, geography, government, and history, inspiring students to write across the curriculum. Here's a section on all the planets in our solar system with important statistics. This section talks about history and includes an in-depth timeline. Now let's take a look at the Write Ahead skills books. There's one for grade 9 and one for grade 10. The activities in the skills book go along with those in the Proofreader's Guide. There's a section on marking punctuation, editing for mechanics, commonly misused words, sentence basics, sentence problems, sentence combining, as well as the parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, interjections, prepositions, and conjunctions. Let's take a look at some of those proofreading activities. This first activity is focused on end punctuation and is connected to the pages in the Proofreader's Guide. The next activities support the next pages in the Proofreader's Guide. You'll find activities about sentence combining, action verbs and linking verbs, and everything else from the Proofreader's Guide. Now let's take a look at the free online teacher's guide that brings it all together. You get to it by going to k12.thoughtfullearning.com and clicking on Teacher's Guides. That link opens a page that has all of our teacher's guides. You can watch a video to get started. Getting started with your free online teacher's guide. If you are working with one of Thoughtful Learning's student writing handbooks, you may have noticed that there is a free online teacher's guide. Then you can scroll down and take a look at your teacher's guide right ahead. This table of contents shows a scope and sequence, a year-long timetable, getting started activities, a chapter-by-chapter guide to the student handbook, assessing writing, research bases, and activities and handouts. Let's look at the year-long timetable. This suggested year-long timetable presents one possible sequence of writing and language skills units based on a 5 days per week class. Here in week 1, we might want to start with some getting started activities. This page has scavenger hunts and other activities that help students become familiar with their handbooks. Each link provides a download, which you open in Word and provide to students either digitally or on paper. Any activity with specific answers also has a download with the answers. Let's go back to the year-long timetable. After we do getting started activities, we might want to cover why write, and then introduce journal writing to get students going with that. In week 2, we'll do all about writing, one writer's process, and creating clear sentences. Let's look at one writer's process. This takes us to the chapter-by-chapter guide to the student handbook. You see the first page of the chapter, get a startup activity, a think about it quotation, the standards covered in the chapter, and then a page-by-page guide for teaching the material, including many downloads. These pages support you throughout the process of teaching. Let's go back to the year-long timetable. In addition to those chapters, we'll do creating clear sentences with material in the Proofreader's Guide as well as the Skills Book 9 and Skills Book 10. In week 3, we'll do the traits of effective writing, and then we'll introduce our first forms. 9th graders can work on personal narratives, and 10th graders on biographical essays. We continue our work with sentences in both the handbook and the skills book. Let's go back to the table of contents. So we've seen the year-long timetable, the getting started activities, and the chapter-by-chapter guide to the student handbook. Let's take a look at assessing writing. These pages provide you many different rubrics for narrative, explanatory, persuasive, response, research, or workplace writing. They also appear on the individual pages where they will be assigned. You can also find out about writing assessment for students, the traits of effective writing, using rubrics, and so on. And then let's look at activities and handouts. This page gathers all the activities and handouts that you'll find throughout the teacher's guide. So how can I get started with this program? Well, once again, go to k12.thoughtfullearning.com, click on Teacher's Guides, and find your teacher's guide. The Write Ahead Teacher's Guide includes a Write Ahead program sheet. The first page of the sheet tells you about the handbook, the free online teacher's guide, and the skills books. The second page gives you a simple 4-step process for getting started. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, and Step 4. Thank you for joining us for this professional development for Write Ahead. We hope that the program helps you teach writing and helps your students become the best writers they can be.